I think it's really important for me before I share this story to give you a bit of context. I think it's important that you understand where I was mentally and emotionally when I went on this very bizarre, strange date, which I am a bit embarrassed to even talk about. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm just cringing right now. Okay, but I know that somebody's gonna find value in it, so I'm just gonna go for it. At the time, I felt very lost. Um, that's the best way that I could put it. I felt so lost. I had given up my apartment in LA. I knew that I was supposed to, and so I did. I gave it up. I packed everything up. I put it in storage, and I didn't know when or how I would be getting it out of storage, but I just put all my stuff in storage, and I packed two suitcases that I would keep with me, and I came to New York and stayed with my family because that's where I'm from, and I thought, I'll figure it out. Maybe it's time for me to go back to New York, right? And so I came to New York, and I was just kind of taking it one day at a time. My mom was in a very precarious situation with her living situation, and there were a lot of challenges that she was facing. And so I was trying to figure it out, not just for myself, but also for my mom. And so it was a very, very, very difficult time for me. And I just didn't know how to help myself, let alone help her. I was just trying my best and figuring it out as I went along. Also, I had gotten injured at work, and so it wasn't working, and my wrist was shot at the time. It was not. It was injured, and there's a video that I will link up here about how it was ultimately healed eventually. And so there was just a lot going on. And then like the icing on the cake was that emotionally, like I was so heartbroken. Um there was a wound there that just seemed so impossible to fix. I had gotten my heart broken, and I just didn't know how to move forward from that. And so I came to New York with all of that, you know, um, feeling of just, I was just lost and hopeless and sad on the inside. And I was still holding on to that old person that maybe, some way, somehow God can like bring us back to each other. Or like he'll one day just maybe call me and, say, hey, I'm so stupid, and so I was kind of just hanging on to that. Now, it was exactly about this time, January, a few years ago, that this date happened. So, my cousin was traveling. He was backpacking through Southeast Asia, and he said, like, why don't you? You're not working right now. It's the holiday time. Why don't you like meet me? And I was like, all right, why not? I'm feeling all sorts of ways like, why not? I'm just going to hit pause from life, real life, and venture off and meet you in the Philippines. So I packed a little duffel bag, a little backpack. I, just took maybe 3, 4 outfits with me. And I was going to have like my own little mini backpacking adventure with him for about 2 weeks. So I went away, and while I was away, I was just like, when the new year starts, like the new year had just started by then because I spent New Year's there with him. And I just remember thinking, like, when I go back, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no idea how to move forward, but I'm just going to like try my best. And I would just pray, like, Lord, if it's your will, like bring old dude back to me, and maybe like we can start fresh this new year. And I remember while I was there in the Philippines, I had this dream that there was a celebration happening, and that he was actually, I could see that he was with like family and friends, and that there was a celebration happening. And as I walked closer and closer to him, I saw that it was a celebration for pregnancy. And I knew, I knew that he was getting ready to be a dad. And I remember waking up just horrified, horrified. Like, wow, no, I just didn't want to believe that. And so I came back to New York with that dream in the back of my head, but still in denial, and still thinking like, maybe, just maybe, he's gonna come back. And I was so confused about what to do, because then I started thinking, oh, maybe I am gonna go back to LA. I don't think I want to stay in New York. It was just a lot of confusion, a lot of silliness. As soon as I got back, I had already had it planned with two of my girlfriends from LA. They were going to be coming to visit, and we were going to have like a girls' weekend. And so we rented a hotel room, and, we were going to just spend the weekend getting dressed up and going to dinner and hanging out and having fun. And so as soon as I came back, like the very next day, they came into town the very, very next day. I was so jet lagged. That's important. I was so jet lagged. Hi, Lily. And as soon as we start our festivities, we check into the hotel. We were staying in Soho. I think we were staying at the Howard, which I think is the same hotel as that whole thing with that girl, that scammer girl. I forgot her name, that they did the series on Netflix about, which was pretty good. Yeah, so we stayed there. And the first day, I just felt so obligated to make sure that my friends had a good time and stuff. So I could feel on the inside that I was just withering away, because I was so tired. And we started off the night getting dressed and stuff, and we had champagne. And then at dinner, I had another glass of champagne. We had like a round of complimentary glass of champagne. And then I remember I had a cocktail. And so the night's going on, and one of my friends, she's one of those people that, like, what's the next spot? Where we going next, And so after dinner, I was just ready to like come back to the hotel room and rest. But again, I felt like, gotta make sure that my friends have a good time and stuff. So I pushed myself, and we went out to like a lounge. And then when we got back to our hotel also has like a really nice lounge situation. And it was kind of like a popular lounge. And so we went there. And I remember I just got water. We were talking and dancing and having a good time. But inside, all I wanted to do was go lay down. And from even dinner time, I just really wanted to go to sleep. But I kept pushing myself. And while we're there, we meet this group of guys, and they were from Germany, and they were in town for work. And me and one of my friends, the one who likes to have a good time, me and her hit it off with like the two of them. And so our other friend, she went back to the room since we were in our hotel, and she was like, oh, you guys have fun. So the guy that I was talking to, we were definitely getting cozy with one another, and no. Oh, the cat's trying to jump up. We were getting cozy with one another, and we were like having love in the club is what you would call it. Like when you're out and you meet that person and you guys are kind of booed up for the evening, and then maybe you exchange numbers, maybe you don't, but that's pretty much it. Like you say goodbye and that's it. But you were dancing with each other, maybe he like bought you a drink and whatever. So he had offered to buy me a drink, and I remember very distinctly being like, no, 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 I'm okay. I didn't want to drink anymore, and I was already feeling so out of it. But nonetheless, I stayed out, and we kept having a good time, and I remember we did share a kiss, and at the end of the night, we said goodbye. He wanted my number, and he really wanted to still hang out. It's New York City, so of course, we could have stayed out till like 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was time to go to bed. And so it was probably like around 1 o'clock when we went to the room. And that night, I remember sleeping miserably. It was a very restless night of sleep. I still was thinking about, the guy who had broken my heart and how much I missed him. I was still thinking about my mom's situation and where was she going to live and how was I going to help her. I was still thinking about where was I going to live and what was I going to do. And there was just so much on my mind. And the next morning I woke up and I felt like I had been run over by a car. Like I felt awful. All the jet lag, just everything was just compounded. It was just all the things all at once. And then my body was just so out of it with the drinks that I had had. And so I felt miserable. I felt I was hungover. And I didn't even drink like that. Or I didn't get drunk or anything. But I felt hungover. My body just couldn't handle whatever I had. And keep in mind, like, the first glass of champagne that I had earlier in the night, like it was spaced out. And so I just didn't even understand why I felt like this and felt miserable. And I knew that it was just too much all at once. And the girls got ready and they went out for the day. They went thrifting and stuff. And because we're definitely those girls, right? That we like to go thrifting and stuff. And they went on their adventures throughout the day, and they went and they had, pizza, because of course you gotta have pizza if you're visiting NYC. But I stayed in and I couldn't eat anything. I just wanted to throw up, and I felt so sick, and I felt disappointed in myself for the night before. And like, I should have just come back to the room after dinner. I should have just taking it easy. I should have gotten good rest. Or why did I even agree to, like have this girl's weekend right after coming back from that trip? And what am I doing with my life? Like there was just so much happening in my head. And I just remember I missed like him, And so I looked at my phone, probably like, maybe at 10 a.m. And I saw that the German guy had been hitting me up. He wanted to hang out again. He wanted to go out again. He wanted to, let's go for drinks again. And it was very clear to me that he wanted a party and that he had some idea about the type of girl that he thought that I was. And I wasn't. And so he like wanted to have, a good time. And I kind of didn't, and he got some impression. And so I was making it very clear, like, oh, like if you want to go out to eat something, we can like go out for a bite to eat, I guess. But no more drinks. Like I don't feel good. Like no. And then I just remember him finally dropping the whole thing about drinks and being like, oh, okay, well, let's definitely eat something. And then he mentioned, no. I stopped responding to him because I felt like this is too much and I'm not even into you like that. And whatever. So I just kind of left it alone. I slept, and I remember the girls later on asking me, "Oh, did you hear from him?" And I was like, "Yeah, but," and they were like, "Be open minded. Go out. Do go on a date. You haven't been on a date in a long time." And so, with that in my head, the next day when he hit me up, he was kind of getting the idea that, look, like, I'm not interested in getting drunk and going out or like hooking up. And well, no, he didn't get the hint about that quite yet, but he understood like I'm not gonna go party, right? And so he said, okay, well, we can go out to eat, and there's this place right by my hotel. And he named the spot, and when I looked it up, I was like, this is so very casual and no effort. It almost felt like a fast food, like vegan spot, because it was also vegan. And the fact that he said, oh, this is right by my hotel, gave me like it sounded some alarms, because I knew kind of what he was insinuating. And so I was like, okay, so clearly you still kind of want to hook up, what the heck. And so I was just like, whatever, I don't want to do this. So I started ignoring him again, and I just remember the girls being like, oh, be open-minded, just go, like, why not? There's no... And needless to say, I agreed to go out on a date with him 2 days later. And he then I kind of took over, and I was like, oh, well, I kind of like don't want to go there. I don't really feel like going up to that neighborhood where he was staying, because I'm gonna go home to Brooklyn right after, so I kind of don't even want to go up there. And he goes, well, what's a place that you recommend that would be better for you? So I recommended Uncle Boone's. And if you're from NYC, that's a locals spot. Was, because sadly after what happened, it shut down. But just an iconic spot, Thai food, small, just kind of in the cut. If you know about it, you know about it. And like I said, it was a local spot, and the food was amazing. And it's not a touristy spot at all. And that's an important part of the story. So anyways, I meet him there, and he was nice. We had good conversation. I could tell that he had a very intense personality. He kept mentioning his vegan lifestyle, and that seemed to be a very big part of his identity. He seemed to have a very controlling personality, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with some people that are in that community. I do think that it gives them a very strong sense of control. And so, not saying all, but he was very regimented about his workout and eating. And I remember one time he even said, oh, food is like, it's a necessity. I don't need to enjoy food to eat it. Like it just is sustenance. I was like, he was very interesting. He was weird. And conversation was going, and I remember him saying, oh, let's do something after this. Like, let's go out for drinks. And he kept pushing this whole drink thing. And I was like, no, hey. Cat's grooming herself. And I was like, no, I already told you that I was not feeling well, and I don't want to drink, and I'm cool on that. And he mentioned it, more than once about wanting to go out afterwards for drinks. And I was like, no, why does he keep wanting to go out for drinks? Why do you want to get me drunk, right? Like, why do you want to get me drunk? And the check came, and I just remember him completely avoiding even acknowledging that the waitress had dropped the check. And you wanted to take me out on this date? This was not an expensive place at all. It was very casual. Hey, stop with the grooming. And making all this yucky noise in the background. Hey, stop, Lily, stop. So he dropped the check, and I barely even, I think I had a shrimp fried rice, okay? Which I love so much. They dropped the check, and he just avoided it. He just kept looking at me and just talking. Like, if I just keep talking to her, maybe I won't have to acknowledge that the check is there. And maybe, she'll pull out her money and then we'll just split it. But heck no, you wanted to go out with me. You kept hitting me up. And so I just kept talking. I just kept ignoring that thing on that table. About 20 hot minutes go by until finally he says, oh man, I really have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, okay. So if I remember correctly, Uncle Boone's, the toilet is to the back. You have to walk all the way to the back. So he leaves, he walks to the back, and I said, oh, heck no. So the waitress comes, she's like, oh, you guys, and I was like, no, not yet. Because there was just no way. I'm not. You invited me here. You be a gentleman. You gonna pay for this date. So he comes back, and we're talking. And all of a sudden, his friend, no, let me pause. All of a sudden, we were sitting in the front of the restaurant, and the seats, they were like high. So the tables were high, and these were stools. And so all of a sudden, a guy bumps him as he's walking past him. So it would have been on this shoulder. Like, he walks past him, not just like a simple brush, like brushed against him, but literally like nudged him, like, and kept going. And the guy, I forget the guy's name. Like, I don't remember if his name was Jonas or maybe it was Marcel. I don't remember. Not important. But he just ignored it. Any person would have been like, whoa, but he just ignored it. And I knew something felt very strange about that. And I was like, whoa. And I turned. And when I turned, I looked up and I saw that the guy that nudged him, because it looked like a nudge to me, was his friend from the other night that was there. He was the one that was with my friend, and then I was with, this guy. He was that other guy, his friend, his coworker was there. And I looked at him, I saw him, and I said, oh my gosh, look, that was your coworker, your friend, like, yo. And he looks up and he was like, oh yeah, hey. And at the same time, like, the guy, he had known that I saw him. So then it was like this awkward look between them two, like, oh. And then he leaves, walks out the door. And he's like, oh, haha, he's here. And I was like, did you tell him that you were coming here for dinner? And he goes, oh, no. And I go, oh. Yeah, I mean, you didn't tell him that you were coming to Uncle Boone's for dinner? You sure? And he goes, no. The thing was that he was so unfazed by bumping into his friend. So unfazed that, oh, what a coincidence. It struck me as very awkward. And Uncle Boone's is not a tourist spot. The likelihood of his friend choosing that to come and eat was unlikely, highly unlikely. And the guy who I was on the date with, his reaction was just so bizarre. If you would have run into your friend, coworker like that, you would have been like, oh, hey, or whatever. It was like, yo, I felt so uneasy. And he just looked at me like it was nothing. He was like, oh, hey, yeah. So, yeah, so, we should really, do something after this. Maybe I can see, where he's going, and we can all, meet up. And I just knew instinctively that was definitely set up, that his friend knew exactly where we were going to be, that perhaps when he went back to the bathroom, maybe they said something to each other. I said, okay, I need to get out of here. So I just looked down at the bell, and then I looked at him, and I said, oh, and by the way, thank you so much. And I just kind of like put my hand on the bell and slid it a little bit towards him. I said, thank you so much for dinner, thank you. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. And then he took out, his wallet and he put his card in. And I'm like, you're on a business trip. You're clearly going to expense this. And I only had a shrimp fried rice and Thai iced tea. What in the world, And cheap. And so I just couldn't wait to get out of there. Because I knew that this was a setup. I knew that something was off. I knew that something just didn't feel right. And again, when we were leaving, I said, that's so crazy that your friend was here. And he's like, yeah, I know, right? And I said, wow. And then he just looked at me again and he's like, so, yeah, I mean, you sure you don't want to come hang out? And I go, no. So you could spike my drink? Like, what? No. So felt like that's what they had planned. And they had some sort of nefarious intentions, This wasn't just a simple date. And when we said goodbye, I felt so relieved. And it was just such a great lesson for me. I knew at the time I wasn't really walking with the Lord. I would go to church here and there and whatever. I would pray, my little prayers before bed. But I knew that he was speaking to me even then. And I remember shedding some tears that night because I didn't want to go on these meaningless dates anymore, because I didn't want to be lost anymore and brokenhearted anymore. Eventually, I did find out that the guy who had broken my heart, a few months later, that he had just had a baby. And so the time that I had that dream would have been around the time when they would have been, sharing with people their good news. And the Lord had showed that to me. And it took a while for me to fully surrender myself to the Lord. And when I did, he began to show me love and what love, the meaning of love is, and what true love is. And I understood that there's no way that I could really love someone if I didn't understand the Father's love for me. I couldn't love myself unless I understood his love and his love for me. And I wouldn't have to feel lost if I would just tell him that I need him. The Lord says, "For I am the Lord your God. I will hold your right hand." And he says, "I am the Lord your God, who holds your right hand, who says to you, 'Do not fear, I will help you.'" And so when I finally did allow him to help me, so many things changed. It took a while, but so many things changed. After that date, I said, Lord, I'm not going to go on any more dates. No more meaningless dates. No more, let me just be open-minded because I haven't been on a date in a while. No. Instead of listening to everybody else's voice, I'm going to listen to your voice. And so it took a while. I did go through a bout of depression, which I'll leave a link for the video that I talk about how I overcame depression. It took a while, but eventually I understood. I understood that he wanted to guide me. He wanted to lead me. He wanted to give me guidance. and align me with his path, which was his perfect will for my life. And in that, there is so much joy and freedom and clarity and peace and just so much. He's done so much for me. He set me free from so many things and gave me guidance in ways that I cannot explain. And he set me free from depression and anxiety and being lost. And I'm sharing this with you today so that you would know that you don't have to feel lost. You don't have to feel desperate for the next date. You don't have to feel like you're alone, because he's there. You know, he says, his word says that lean not on your own understanding, but trust in him in all of your ways, and he will make your path straight. He will give you guidance. And so why don't you give him a shot? Give him a chance. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And my book is down below if you want to learn more about who I am. One last thing that I want to tell you is that Matthew 6:36 says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. Life is so rich with him. So I haven't been on a date since then. It's been years. But I'm trusting in him, and he's guiding me and leading me. God bless you. God bless you. And he kept me safe, and he prevented whatever was supposed to happen. He shielded me from that. God is so good.